This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Need to create your own platform to get your foot in the door on the World Wide Web? Then you'll want to sign up for Squarespace today. For now though, let's get into today's video. Pokemon Champions. They are the final boss on every new Pokemon journey. Over the years, we have faced off against some pretty awesome champions, and some that are, yeah. But at the end of the day, we still have to acknowledge that they were strong enough to get where they are. However, we also must acknowledge that some are going to be stronger than others. That's why today, I'm going to be giving you all my rankings of the champions from weakest to strongest. There will be plenty of different factors, but I think the biggest one will end up being diversity in their teams. It doesn't matter how high level the team is. If they're all weak to the same types, it's relatively easy to pull a sweep off on them. Also note for the Gen 7 games, I will be placing Kukui and Hau on the list. While technically you are the first champion of the Alola region, you still have to have a final battle to win to get that title. So I think they're applicable on this list. Anyways, with the intro out of the way, there's nothing else to do but get started. Now, I don't know if you're going to disagree with me right here, but from looking over all the champion teams, I found the most lacking one to be Lance from Gold, Silver, Crystal, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver. As I'm sure you're aware, Lance's team consists of Gyarados, Charizard, Aerodactyl, 2 illegitimate level 47 Dragonites, and 1 level 50 Dragonite. Now that is a lot of flying types for a supposed Dragon-type master. I know this is due to him being a Gen 1 character where Dragonite was the only fully evolved dragon, but the point still stands that since he has so many flying types, Lance is incredibly vulnerable to rock, ice, and electric type attacks. All common coverage moves and no Pokemon that really forces a switch in from the player. However, Lance does get a slight improvement to his team in the reimagined Heart Gold and Soul Silver. He swaps out 2 Dragonites and a Aerodactyl for Salamence, Garchomp, and Altaria, which more solidifies him as a Dragon-type master. But sadly, it's a bit too late for him to redeem himself. And that's why I have Lance as the weakest champion in the franchise. From one monotype champion to another, I present you with the Pokemon Emerald exclusive champion and the original gym leader of the Pseudopolis City Gym, Wallace. Being a former gym leader does not make things easy for Wallace, as he still commits to only one typing. Now that typing is a pretty good one defensively, but that doesn't change much. Wallace is a water type trainer, and his team consists of Wailord, Tentacruel, Ludicolo, Whiscash, Gyarados, and Milotic. Not necessarily a bad mono-water team based on the region, but monotype teams aren't exactly that challenging either. It's nice to see Ludicolo and Whiscash to try and lower the weakness of the electric types, as well as Tentacruel and Gyarados, as a quote-unquote answer to the grass types. But of course there are still clear holes in this team. Wallace never has the chance to change up his team for redemption, which is why he only scores himself slightly above Lance, but is still quite weak for a champion all things considered. From Hoenn to our first journey through Unova, after beating the Elite Four, the player is presented to N's castle. And I'll be honest with you, N felt more like a champion battle than Alder. But Alder is the champion, so let's analyze what went wrong. First off, I'll give credit where it's due. Because of the events that transpired before his champion battle, you'd be quite overleveled. So to avoid that, Alder's levels were 75 across the board, and 77 for his ace, which is quite impressive. But then we take a look at his team, and the flaws become more apparent. Alder's team consists of Aselgar, Bouffalant, Dredigan, Vanillix, Escavalier, and Volcarona. His team is very bug heavy with 3 of them. Now fair enough that they kind of cover each other. Escavalier is neutral versus rock types, whereas Volcarona takes neutral damage from fire type attacks. But that doesn't change the team build. Vanillix and Bouffalant also have a mutual weakness to fighting, but at least Alder is diversifying his team a bit more than the last 2 entries on the list. That being said, Alder has high level Pokemon, but it's just a bit too fragile and a few too many common weaknesses. We're starting to see a bit more variety in these champion teams, which is good, but we're not quite in the clear yet. Steven Stone lives up to his name of primarily using rock types with an even amount of steel types. Steven's team consists of Skarmory, Claydol, Aggron, Cradily, Armaldo, and his infamous Metagross. Skarmory is a flying type, Claydol with Levitate, and Aggron with Sturdy, with Sturdy being a bit different in Gen 3, only allowing it to avoid OHKO moves like Sheer Cold, Fissure, etc. Cradily being part grass, dodging both the water and ground weakness of rock types, Armaldo not being able to be critted, and of course, Metagross is just Metagross. With Skarmory, he sets up hazards and spikes, and it's toxic to wear down the player's Pokemon, allowing for Steven's other members to potentially clean up. However, this is still a Pokemon game, and the player will have more healing and revival items, so the difference isn't huge, but certainly makes it more interesting. Steven's Claydol can set up both Light Screen and Reflect to make his whole team more defensive for 5 turns. Aggron has an incredibly versatile move pool with Earthquake, Thunder, Dragon Claw, and Solar Beam. But again, Aggron doesn't exactly have the best special attack stat. Cradily has Confuse Ray, which can be very annoying, and Ancient Power, which has a 10% chance to increase all of Cradili's stats by 1 stat. Armor though has Water Pulse to help with rock types, Aerial Ace, as well as Ancient Power too. Lastly, there's Metagross, who has Meteor Mash, with a chance to increase Metagross's attack stat by 1 stage, Psychic for stab, Earthquake for a strong option, as well as a Physical Hyper Beam thanks to Gen 3 mechanics. An impressive team for sure, but still a bit on the linear side. We seem to be jumping between Hoenn and Unova quite consistently. Next champion on the block is the Pokemon White Opaloosid City Gym Leader, Iris. Now you would think that a Dragon-type Gym Leader would make for a poor champion, but Iris made some changes to her team upon becoming champion. For one, she only kept her Haxorus and Druddigon from White, and then decided to add a Hydreigon, Archeops, Aggron, and Lapras. Her Hydreigon has coverage for most things it fears with Flamethrower for ice types, Charge Beam to increase special attack, Dragon Pulse for stab, and Surf. Definitely an incredibly versatile moveset for her lead. Her Druddigon has the ability Sheer Force and is holding the Life Orb at him, which means the Druddigon gets all the attack increase with none of the drawbacks. Iris' Druddigon has Rock Slide, Flamethrower, Dragon Tail, and Focus Blast. Yet another very versatile moveset mainly focused on beating Ice types, Steel types, and other dragons. Archeops has Acrobatics and no item, meaning it's a base 110 stab attack coming off of a potential base 140 attack stat. Obviously, there is Archeops' ability, Defeatist, which halves its attack when Archeops gets below 50%. Archeops also has Rock Slide, Dragon Claw, and Endeavor. A sneaky little move if you've gotten Archeops low and on its way out. Next in her team is Aggron, who has the ability Rockhead to avoid the recoil damage from Double Edge. It also has Rock Slide for some stab, Earthquake is a standard hitting move, and Autotomize to try and zoom past the competition. Iris' Lapras has Surf, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, and Sing. Sing can be quite annoying by putting you to sleep, and Thunderbolt is nice coverage, seeing as most water types have Ice Beam, and knowing that Iris got a water type with Thunderbolt as a response. Lastly, Iris has her Focus Sash, Mold Breaker Haxorus of Dragon Dance, Dual Chop, X-Scissor, and Earthquake, proving that she can really pack a punch after setting up a free Dragon Dance, boosting Haxorus' speed and attack by 1 stage. Dual Chop hitting twice to avoid any Focus Sashes or Sturdy. X-Scissor and Earthquake seem to me like extra offensive presence, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Following the game release, we have Diantha, champion of the Kalos region. Now, I may personally like her as a champion, and I cannot deny that she has a pretty solid and diverse team. Diantha's team consists of Hawlucha, Tyrantrum, Aurorus, Gourgeist, Goodra, and lastly, her Mega Gardevoir, whose shiny is also very good. Now in Generation 6, we've been introduced to the Fairy typing, and Diantha doesn't hold back when it comes to using one. Her Mega Gardevoir is the ace of her team with a wide variety of moves. Her Gardevoir has the ability to potentially shut down an attacker on switch in, say by copying Intimidate before Mega evolving. Her Gardevoir's moveset is Moonblast and Psychic for stab, and then Shadow Ball and Thunderbolt for coverage. Coming from the base 165 special attack stat, those moves leave a mark. Looking at the rest of her team, her Hawlucha has Swords Dance, Flying Press, the first ever dual type move, X-Scissor, and Poison Jab. Her Tyrantrum has the Strong Jaw ability to help boost the crunch of this deadly T-Rex. Tyrantrum also has Head Smash, Earthquake, and Dragon Claw. Diantha's Aurorus has Light Screen and Reflect to ensure her other Pokemon don't take as much damage as they need. Diantha's Gourgeist is her weakest Pokemon, but being a Ghost type has its perks. Being immune to fighting and normal certainly helps it out, considering that fighting types are a problem for her Tyrantrum and Aurorus. On top of just its typing, Diantha's Gourgeist has Trick or Treat, which adds the Ghost typing onto the target, making Shadow Sneak and Phantom Force super effective against them. Lastly, there is Diantha's Goodra with Dragon Pulse, Muddy Water, Fire Blast, and Focus Blast, all coming off of a base 110 special attack stat and defending with the base 150 special defense stat, most certainly an impressive team. But still, that Tyrantrum and Aurorus combo seems to be holding it back a bit. And of course, Tyrantrum and Goodra sharing that Dragon typing too. If Tyrantrum was swapped out for another more diverse Pokemon, her team would have had an incredible boost. But having both fossils, while not terrible, it still holds her back a bit. I have to once again thank our pals over at Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Creating a website can definitely be scary. There are so many things to consider in order to make it as good as possible that it can be for sure overwhelming. That's why I think Squarespace is such a good platform to choose, as it takes all the difficulty away and allow you the easiest path to creating your own platform to share with the world. If this is something that you all think you might be interested in, be sure to go to squarespace.com/Mystic to get started, as you'll be able to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using code MYSTIC. Now, technically speaking for this entry, you, the player, are the champion, so we're going to be looking at the Challenger's team, and the Challenger is Hau. After suffering loss after loss in his travels through Alola, Hau became steadfast and growing in order to challenge you and win once and for all, but we're not going to allow that. Although with Hau's team, he most certainly makes an effort. Hau's team is dependent on your starter choice, but he has an Alolan Raichu, either Flareon, Vaporeon, or Leafeon, Tauros, Noivern, Crabominable, and either Primarina, Decidueye, or Incineroar. Looking at the team, we see a lot of variety, which is impressive. Looking at Raichu first, it has Thunderbolt and Psychic for stab, Focus Blast has coverage, and Quick Attack to try and pick off a low HP Pokemon. The evolutions have a stab attack in either Flare Blitz for Flareon, Hydro Pump for Vaporeon, or Leaf Blade for Leafeon, as well as Quick Attack for priority, and then Charm and Baby Doll Eyes for a lot of attack reduction. Hau's Tauros has Zen Headbutt, Iron Head, Earthquake, and Double Edge, which are some pretty hard-hitting moves. It also has Intimidate to lower your attack if that wasn't enough. Next up is Hau's Noivern with Dragon Pulse and Air Slash for stab, as well as Dark Pulse and Super Fang to cover itself. Hau's Crabominable has Iron Fist for a strong ability, along with Power Up Punch, Ice Hammer, Stone Edge, and Dizzy Punch. Lastly, his starter has 2 stab moves, being Darkest Lariat, Flare Blitz, and Earthquake for Incineroar, and that Fire EMZ for that Inferno Overdrive, a Decidueye of Spirit Shackle, Leaf Blade, and Smackdown, as well as a Grass EMZ for Bloom Doom, or, lastly, a Primarina of Sparkling Aria, Moonblast, and Hyper Voice with the Water EMZ for Hydro Vortex. Hau definitely makes up for his lackluster appearance in the original games, and the Ultra counterparts for sure. He is no joke to face off against. Next up, we have the newest champion in the franchise, being Leon. Now, he definitely has a very impressive team. Some of his most notable Pokemon include the Sword and Shield Pokemon Aegislash with King Shield, Shadow Ball, Sacred Sword, and Flash Cannon, a Dragapult with Shadow Ball, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt, and Dragon Breath, a Haxorus with Poison Tail, Iron Tail, Outrage, and Earthquake, the starter Pokemon strongest against your own, and of course his own powerful ace Pokemon, a Gigantamax Charizard with Fire Blast, Air Slash, Solar Beam, and Ancient Power, which also allows Charizard to have Max Overgrowth for water Pokemon, Max Rockfall for Pokemon like Gyarados, as well as Max Airstream for speed, and G-Max Wildfire to have a constant Fire Spin trap. Oh, also, depending on your starter, Leon will also have a Pokemon weak to your starter, being either Seismitoad for Rillaboom, Mr. Rhyme for Cinderace, and Rhyperior for Inteleon. I definitely think Leon has a fantastic team to go up against, and is deserving of being this high up on this list. From Galar back to Alola, we have one of the only professors we've ever had the chance to battle against without exploiting the game in any way. Looking at you, Pokemon Red and Blue vs. Oak. In Sun and Moon, upon beating the Elite Four, you sit down at the Champion's Throne, only to be challenged by Professor Kukui himself. And let me tell you, his team is pretty fearsome. First of all, he has his main Pokemon Lycanroc, evolved from the very same Rockruff he taught you how to catch a Pokemon with. This Lycanroc has Stone Edge, its signature move is Cell Rock, Crunch, and Stealth Rocks. Kukui is already playing around with hazards. Next up is his Alolan Ninetales, with Dazzling Gleam, Blizzard, Ice Shard, and Safeguard. Priority, strong stab moves, and prevention of stats elements? Yeah, that's tough. Kukui also has a Braviary with Crush Claw, Brave Bird, Tailwind, and Whirlwind. Speed increasing, phasing in combo of Stealth Rocks, Brave Bird for stab, and Crush Claw to potentially drop defense. Kukui's last 3 Pokemon are Magnezone with Sturdy for its ability, and Thunderbolt, Thunder Wave, Flash Cannon, and Mirror Coat for its moveset. We have a Snorlax with Thick Fat, coupled with Body Slam, Crunch, Heavy Slam, and High Horsepower. And finally, he'll have the starter that has an advantage over yours. His Incineroar has the Fire EMZ in combo with Flare Blitz for the Inferno Overdrive, as well as Darkest Lariat, Outrage, and Cross Chop. The Primarina has the Water EMZ, Hydro Vortex off of Sparkling Aria, as well as Moonblast, Aqua Jet, and Hyper Voice. Lastly, his Decidueye has the Grass EMZ, Bloom Doom from Leaf Blade, as well as Spirit Shackle, Brave Bird, and Sucker Punch. Kukui is truly showing he isn't holding back and is a formidable opponent. From 3DS to the Switch, the next champion on the list is Trace from Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. To be honest, I kind of forgot about this character in these games, but looking at Trace's team, he has surely picked up quite the team for the champion battle. Trace has a Mega Pidgeot, Vileplume, Marowak, Rapidash, Slowbro, and either Raichu or Jolteon, depending on which version you have. Honestly, that's a pretty solid team, especially when you consider that Vileplume and Slowbro has screens for defensive support. Pidgeot has Heat Wave as extra coverage, his Marowak has both Fire Punch and Brick Break, his Rapidash with Flare Blitz and Poison Jab, his Slowbro of Psychic and Surf, and of course a massive Thunder from either Raichu or Jolteon. For a lesser important game as a third Kanto remake, the champion team is most certainly impressive. Going all the way back to where it all began. Blue, Buttface, Gary, whatever you call them as a kid, the OG rival is absolutely one of the strongest champions we've ever had in this franchise. Blue's team consists of Pidgeot, Alakazam, and Rhydon. His last 3 are depending on your starter, but the other 3 typing choices are Exeggutor, Gyarados, and Arcanine. Then one of those 3 is replaced with a favorable starter to yours. Considering the roster for Gen 1, that is a pretty powerful team. Having an Alakazam is super impressive, and one of the strongest Pokemon in Kanto altogether. Pidgeot is probably the best flying type based on the options. It's either that, or Fearow, Dodrio, or Farfetch'd, but I think he made the right call for sure. Rhydon, of course, packing quite the punch. His Gyarados has Hydro Pump for stab, as well as the broken Gen 1 Hyper Beam, meaning if he knocks someone out with it, he wouldn't need to recharge. His Exeggutor has Hypnosis, which is also a pain in Gen 1, spinning your attack to wake up. His Arcanine is probably the weakest of the 3 with Roar, Ember, Leer, and Takedown. Lastly, his Charizard, if you chose Bulbasaur, has Fire Blast, Slash, and Fire Spin locking you and chipping away, Slash for basically guaranteed crits since critical hits were based off of the speed stat. His Blastoise has Hydro Pump and Blizzard, 2 incredibly powerful moves, and then Withdraw and Bite. His Venusaur has Growth, Mega Drain, Razor Leaf, and Solar Beam, a bit lacking compared to the last 2, but still a pretty big threat. Blue has proven himself with the moveset upgrade in Fire Red and Leaf Green too, proving that he is truly one of the greatest. There is no strongest champion list without the Queen from Sinnoh, tearing most players apart during their first playthrough. Now before you go down in the comments and be like, well, Mystic, I beat Cynthia on my first try, she was super easy, I had my level 100 in Fernape. That's not how it was for everyone, buddy. And she has earned her title as the strongest champion. Let's take a look at her team. In Diamond and Pearl, her team is as follows. A Spiritomb with Dark Pulse, Psychic, Silverwind, and Embargo. Spiritomb at this point in time is a Pokemon with no weaknesses, so that was a big threat in my opinion. Moving on, we have Roser with the Energy Ball, Sludge Bomb, and Extrasensory, an incredibly versatile move pool ready for most matchups. Her Gastrodon with Muddy Water, Earthquake, Stone Edge, and Sludge Bomb being only weak to Grass. Cynthia covers Gastrodon with Roserade and having Sludge Bomb and Gastrodon itself. Lucario has Aura Sphere, Dragon Pulse, Psychic, and Earthquake. Knowing that Garchomp is her ace, she has Lucario to pick off any ice types of Aura Sphere, Dragon types of Dragon Pulse, Fellow Steel types of Earthquake, and Psychic as a little bit of extra coverage. Milotic has Surf, Ice Beam, Mirror Coat, and Aqua Ring, a strong defensive water type with passive recovery and Ice Beam for grass types. Then of course, she has her Garchomp with Dragon Rush, Earthquake, Brick Break, and the danger button, Giga Impact. In Platinum, she trades out her Gastrodon for a Togekiss with Air Slash, Aura Sphere, Water Pulse, and Shockwave. Some move changes are also done too. Embargo on Spiritomb is replaced for Stab Shadow Ball, Roserade drops Shadow Ball for Toxic, Lucario changes its entire moveset except Aura Sphere for extreme speed, Shadow Ball, and Stone Edge. Milotic swaps out Aqua Ring for Dragon Pulse, and Garchomp swaps out Brick Break for Flamethrower. To me, it's clear that Cynthia stands atop all the other champions as the strongest champion in the Pokemon series, and I feel most of you can agree with me on that. Well, that wraps up my rankings of all the champions, weakest to strongest. I know a list like this can be a little subjective at times, being that everyone can have wildly different teams that can absolutely destroy some champions that others struggle against. I just hope I was able to lay out everything effectively so that you could see where I was coming from. What do y'all think though? Did you agree with my list, or do you think some of these champs got the short end of the stick? Definitely let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave a like and subscribe to my channel with notifications on, that way you never miss an upload. If you want to support me further, consider following my Twitch where I stream a lot of Pokemon content and all kinds of other Nintendo content like Zelda, Fire Emblem, and much more. Also, I've been reviewing every episode of My Hero Academia Season 4 over on Mystic Sage, so head over there if you're into that too. I would love that a lot. Want to support me further and gain cool perks? Check out my Patreon. Daniel Leone, Lady Crimson, Memory Martin, The Lazy Leo, Matthew Young, Awesome Lego, Jarrett Weiss Austin, Sodden Grider, Nigma97, and Kermit117 did, and I want to thank them personally for going above and beyond. It means the world to me. I think I'm gonna wrap this up though. I'm Mr. UMBREON, and I will see you in the future for more awesome Pokemon content.